and the governor, they're close second, close second. All right, so Sheldon, it's all yours.
Yo, yeah, no music for me. I'll stand down. So let me introduce first, as the governor said, usually he's always last. I'm going to let you on to do your dance last. Let's introduce first to the stage, Commissioner of Tourism, Mr. Joseph. He's in the Virgin Islands, so it's Joseph Bushelta.
Welcome to the most beautiful island in the world, Virgin Islands. Yeah, man. My turn, my love. Una duas, una duas, una duas. How are the VI master them? If you from the VI, represent your road. If you from the VI.
Okay, that's all I got.
And now let's welcome to the platform the governor of these U.S. Virgin Islands, Governor Albert Bryan Jr.
Lauren said call out in New York City. Says she coming home cause she must have to play. Lauren said call out in New York City. Says she coming home cause she must have to play.
Never miss a puppy show, boy.
Oh yeah.
I saw the LT look up and say, ha. I saw it.
Well, I can tell your country you better be ready when the LT close out today. The gate sound ready.
Well, that's definitely a feel of being on the beach. Quite comfortable and relaxed. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
And today we're just having a conversation, taking questions from the audience, speaking to what has taken place thus far today. So I'll start off with the governor. Tell me something. What do you feel, what do you see, what's your vision for the tourism industry here in the U.S. Virgin Islands? What do you foresee in the near future?
Well, I really see the expansion of our tourism, not only by like what we discussed about perfecting it, extend the day, expand the day, extend the stay, extend the span, but also moving into other types of tourism. Right now, the delegate has a piece of legislation to allow for medical tourism from the Caribbean and also other kinds of tourism coming in. So if you've been paying attention, we've been making a strong push for the development of our hospitals and our health centers, along with real local tourism, things like horse racing. So now in St. Thomas, we have horse racing. You can actually go there and rent a box and sit down and really, even if you don't like horse racing, people have really good hobbies like drinking, which can be done at the horse track. We're making partnerships with drag racing with Puerto Rico. We already have a real vigorous sports tourism, not only with the big things like Paradise Jam, but we had the women's softball here in St. John, that tournament the other day. And we've done extremely good things with Little League. Cricket, my favorite thing now in the world, is I want to see develop. We got 2 cricket stadiums, $2 million a piece allocated by the legislature to start doing cricket here. Polly Joseph is coming along, and I would personally like to see the Virgin Islands and the British, the collective Virgin Islands, British and U.S., have a cricket team competing in the Caribbean Premier League. Soccer is huge. We've got one of the best soccer fields in St. Croix in the Caribbean. I don't know if you guys saw the Copa event in Miami, but soccer is like off the chain when it comes to them. And I like these things from a perspective of sports, but I like the money the government gonna collect more. So my vision for tourism is to have it all. And then lastly, for our residents as well as new residents for the island, we had 35% poverty rate. I want to see workation from the Virgin Islands. We did it during COVID. More people working remotely. Minimum impact on our infrastructure, maximum impact on our taxes. So high earning individuals coming to the Virgin Islands, renting a villa or another place for 6 months at a time, 3 months at a time, contributing to our economy and also creating opportunities for our young people.
Now, you've listed a few things there, and it's your vision, but it's task to get that done is the gentleman next to you, Joe. So when you hear some of these things that the governor references, what do you foresee as the challenges to getting them completed?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is always money, right? Because we don't have an unlimited pool of funds, so which is why we are very careful in how we spend, and we use a lot of analytics. In driving our decision-making processes. I think the other thing that's important for us is to recognize, for example, the governor mentioned several pieces in sports tourism. And we get the question a lot in sports tourism. The first thing you have to have is facilities. So if you don't have facilities, you're eliminated. The second thing you have to have appropriate lodging. So you don't have the lodging, the teams can't come because they need certain places to stay. And it varies by the level of sport. So professional teams, they need 5-star hotels. College teams, depending on the Division I, they need a certain accommodation. Division II, a certain accommodation. And I think something Ms. Lewis spoke about today is then you get into high school and AAU, then things change. Then all of a sudden the university dorms become options. Other hotels become options because now the parents are not as concerned as I have to have my kids stay in a 5-star. They just like the experience is what matters. And I think those are the kind of things that we have to look at. And then of course, the last piece for us being an island setting is lift. Because they got to get to you, and it has to be relatively affordable to get to you. And I think that when I listen to what the governor has mentioned, the part that really attracts me to the comments is the ability to diversify the people that come to us. So the sports he spoke about are non-traditional U.S. sports. So when you start speaking about soccer or football, the World Cup is in the Americas in 2026. So there's a tremendous amount of people that support that sport. Same thing with cricket. The cricket just finished the World Cup, and I'm not as big a fan as the governor. When I went to the CTO event, I had to get the pull on the side, Joe, this is when you chair. Because I didn't know when you're supposed to chair, right? So I got the lesson when we went out. But I think those are the kind of things when we start thinking about how do we diversify the product, but not having to remake everything. So it's just going out and targeting different subgroups to come in and do the same kind of thing on it, because we have a lot of the infrastructure in place. We have strong hotels, we have the best service, we have ground transportation to move people around. So we have a lot of the components. We just now need to focus on making sure that we market to where we have the strengths.
And two other things before we finish off I want to mention is stuff that I think about all the time is Puerto Rico and Miami. These are two places. Puerto Rico has 3 million people. Miami, Florida is like the third largest populated state. Miami has a great party scene. It's nothing for people to think. We do it, right? We go to Miami for the weekend and we do a little shopping and have a good time. We need to think about how do we cultivate that party scene, especially here on the island of St. Thomas. St. Croix is more of a relaxing getaway when you couch it that way. But St. Thomas and St. John, get on a plane Friday in Miami, you're here in 2 hours, you party Friday night, Saturday night. If you look at the things that we supported, we had the rave concerts last year that didn't go, is the techno music. They had really high price tickets. They were at Yacht Haven last year. That's the kind of thing we want to see, new products coming in. We really wanted the cruise ship for Carnival to work. That's 3,000 rooms, 1,500 rooms that allow us to expand our Carnival product. So looking at ways that we could take the infrastructure that we already have in place and saying, okay, how do we build a following around this product? Right now we're moving legislation. Yes, senators, we're moving legislation. And we need the help of the legislature to allow cruise ships to come to Frederiksted and leave the casinos open if they're going to stay from 5 to 10 o'clock at night. So only 10% of people gamble on the ship. The rest of the people will want to be in the nightlife in Frederiksted. We also sponsored last year Sunset Jazz. If you notice, we had major jazz groups coming to Frederiksted for Sunset Jazz. Just a whole vibe like no other in St. Croix around music, culture, food. How do we keep that going so people know about it? And promoting what we have most definitely is free. Like we have 3 incredible music festivals every year for free. And then lastly, I want to say the one thing, like you can ask any millennial, don't take my word for it. Go out there and ask a Gen Z or a millennial, what does duty-free mean? Nobody know what duty-free mean. You know, people don't realize, just like when we go to the States and we hear, you say, oh, $9.99, that's a great deal, and then they can say $10.34, and you say, oh man, taxes. They're not thinking I can come to the Virgin Islands and buy a Rolex watch for $10,000 and don't pay any taxes on it, because tax is a way. So changing the language to what they speak, they understand tax holiday. If you've ever lived in the States, on tax holiday, people go crazy buying stuff. Well, it's a tax holiday in the Virgin Islands every single day, but people don't know that. So that's an impetus for them to buy because people hate taxes. Anyway, I'll shut up. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I was going to laugh when you said tax holiday every day. Is like a 50% sale on a store on Main Street that's been there for the last 12 years. Yeah. Anyone has any questions?
Wow, we could go home.
All right. Well, I'll jump up and come to you. Oh, you got a this is really professional.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here. This is wonderful. I've had a first-class time, and from the food to the presentations. Thank you so very much. You, Commissioner, you spoke about the hotels, you spoke about the airlines, but we know the trifecta is also things to do. And Shelley Williams with Great Exploration Tours. And so when I wrote my check, and I know that I was given to the coffers, I was wondering, do you have data of how much do tour companies, those venues contribute to?
Excursions? You mean?
Yeah, excursions. Contribute to the coffers of the VI. Do we have numbers for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't believe we have ever tracked that specifically on gross receipt taxes that they pay into the coffers. But I think that's something we should do. I think where we look at the excursion packages on the cruise side and the stayover side, we look at it as a part of the product. We've heard from several speakers today speak about experiential travel, you know, in your business. So we look at it as part of the product, and we look at more how much money the consumer spends while in destination with many of the excursion people as a portion of the spend as opposed to the actual tax contribution. We only follow one set of taxes. That's the hotel occupancy tax. The rest of them, that's for the IRB and the government to follow. But I think it's something that I'll ask our team to pay a little more attention to. What we have found is that another barometer is the growth of excursion businesses tend to be more when tourism is good. And we've seen an influx of excursion businesses on all 3 islands, main islands, and of course the one that my assistant commissioner so graciously told me to not forget is Water Island, because Water Island is a Virgin Island, and we do beginning to see more interest happening on Water Island as well.
Thank you. I also wanted to say that I think that if you look at the data for experiences, as you said, that you'd have a number as to the growth, but also the missed opportunities. I am all about partnering and bringing things into the Virgin Islands, but we have excellent opportunities of individuals that are local to build on those experiences. I want to do a shout out to Senator Jeanette Millen Young. I attended her conference last week, and she had a speaker that talked about agri-tourism.
Say that again?
Agri-tourism, basically farming. And so that was I made a connection at that particular conference. I'm going to speak to that individual about building on that. She has a wonderful product from what I hear, but it can develop. She's not in the tourism business, but if we partner her with individuals that are in the tourism, we can develop. And she's not the only one that's here on island with a product that just needs to be elevated.
All
Yeah, I
right.
think that's a great point. If I could just share, I think one of the things that we are trying to do, and we have been doing for the last 2 years, and we continue to grow it, is allow for our team to help, excuse me, educate some of our small business owners on the use of social media, the use of promotion, because like you said, we have almost 3 million people that come to the territory annually, and one of the missed opportunities is if people don't know about you, know of you, how can they find you? And this afternoon, we have a couple of the panelists that are going to speak specifically about opportunity. And I think one of the things that I learned that was shocking, and this was a few years ago, that if you have two businesses that sell very similar food on the same street with relatively similar storefronts, and one that advertises on Google and the other doesn't, the one on Google, whether or not the food is good, better, service is better or not, will outsell the one that doesn't have any advertising simply because they are promoted, and when people do the searches, they find them. And then the other piece that was very profound to me is the businesses that have current pictures do much better than those that don't have any pictures or old pictures. So these are just little tidbits that we want to continue to share with the small businesses to help themselves and help the territory on a whole, because if we're going to promote experiential tourism, then we have to have the experiences. And some of the businesses you speak about are probably the most intimate, most soul-reaching that can happen. But unfortunately, those are the ones that are missed the most because they don't necessarily know how to promote themselves to the visitors that come.
Well, I think one of the things that I mentioned too, I was so impressed by, my memory is so bad, our guest speaker today, and looking at people present, the number one thing that they do, they make sure she put up a QR code so you could link her, right? So you're making sure that you follow it. And I said, everybody in this room should go right now and visit USVI. Because once you start following it, it comes up on your page and other people follow it. So we should be our own best friends and our own fans. The second thing is, in terms of excursions, we have supported excursions for years through the EDA program, so they don't pay taxes. So whether it's the tramway, the zip line, I think we have other kind of major tours, the golf courses. We want to talk about golf, another one of my favorite things. They've all been supported by that. The other thing I want to tell you is I haven't heard any questions today about financing your business, but right now the EDA, I saw Dwayne earlier. Where's Dwayne? Benjamin. Right there. He's the Assistant Executive Director of the EDA. We have $62 million to collateralize your loan. So the State Small Business Credit Initiative can collateralize your loan up to 80%. So when you go to the bank and you're saying, the bank is saying, you don't have enough collateral, you can go to the EDA. Generally, it's about 30%, but they can go as high as 80%. So they put down the money for you. We're not going to use this $62 million. We had $13 million the last time. It took us like 6 years to use it. And if we don't use it, we lose it. So I am a Wikipedia of information on the Virgin Islands, and I'm always amazed at when people don't know. So we've been doing our best to do things like that. And right now, I could tell you, the Port Authority, Royal Caribbean, WICO, they're all looking for new things to do, new excursions to partner with. These government agencies shouldn't be the ones that are building excursions. It should be private sector people building the excursion. We're here to help you get in business so we can have things for our tourists to do.
You know, what's an interesting thing, I think, and I just traveled with UVI to Kenya. And I think one of the things that we as a community miss, and I know that you, Governor, and Joe yourself, have been promoting various things, but we don't recognize what we can use as an excursion.
Right.
So what this young lady just referenced, when in Kenya, we went to a farm, and we walked through the whole farm. You take them down to Bodo.
Yeah.
You take them by Dale and St. Croix. And, but those individuals themselves have to be the ones to move something of that sort forward on their own behalf. The government is obviously willing to assist, but you have to have that initiative and that vision to recognize this is something that you can use in that fashion.
And then manipulate all of it, right? So I like cricket. So I like cricket. I download the app. They're not selling anything on the app. I can't buy a hat. I can't buy a T-shirt. I can't register for a hotel. I can't buy a ticket for a game. If you're running an excursion, all you got to do is go to Disneyland. You should have a hat for somebody. You should have a shirt for somebody. You should have a special drink they have to take. They should have seasoning they could take home. And these kinds of forums allow us to entertain people, yes, but show people how to market your product. People in the Virgin Islands have great products, but they don't advertise. My barbershop, no barbershop sign. Everybody know it. I listen to ads on the radio every day, like everybody know where Junie's Seafood is. Like some people don't. So we think parochial a lot of times, like everybody know me, I selling cake for years. No, everybody doesn't know you. So we need to think, you're laughing because it's true, right? We don't think about anybody else coming here that want to try something. So I see the little glitches. So
a lot of times it's top of mind to just make people aware and remember, remind them of such. Now, we got another question. You have a question? Uh-huh.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
2 points to raise. Back not too long ago, Leo Barbell and Eric Matthews tried to establish a cultural event right here in the West India Company. We've been talking a lot about what we can do to advance and share our local culture. We also had on Main Street, I don't know how many of you remember, I heard the music from Sammy Watts. Sammy wrote the music. We had in Drake's Passage on Main Street, a wonderful, wonderful video description and sharing of our island culture. I'm wondering if there is any way that these type of events can be helped by the government to bring them to fruition. First question.
I ain't gonna be the bank tourism today. I gonna be nice. But I think we already do that. I'm kind of amazed at the amount of like the dancers here, the mokojumbis, all the places that you actually see them when you're on the island, the greeters. I mean, we've come a long way. Once again, the private sector is leaning on the government to perform these actions. Send us a proposal about what you want to do. I think we have some things going on in both our downtown areas. In Charlotte Tamale, this new company has bought out Alatopa properties on the island and have made considerable investment. They bought Burns, they bought Creaky Alley, they bought International Plaza. And we're talking to them about, okay, how do we infuse now the island flair and be able to subsidize the rents for people to do things local in those places so tourists could see something else. We revitalized, the Vendors Plaza, another place where we have local. We're in the planning stages now for a food truck stage by the fort where we could put food trucks, local food truck vendors along the fort and create an area there where you could eat so people could showcase that. Downtown Christiansted, there's a lot going on with a developer over there by the name of Peter Zilke, who has developed much of Hospital Street, extending the boardwalk. So we're here to support the private sector, but for us to take on employees, hire people is a challenge. We had a proposal where we wanted to take over the rum factory there in, it's still kind of like wavering right there in Emancipation Garden and create a tourism visitors center there so we could get people right where they're coming into town and engage with them. But we need more proposal from the private sector. It's amazing to me how many things around here tourism support. You can't see a pan knock in the Virgin Islands and they don't have that logo on it, say, sponsored by the Department of Tourism. And then people come out and say, well, the government don't support our stuff. We over-support concerts, bar mitzvahs, everything here in the Virgin Islands. Is that true, Joe? Give yourself some credit.
We do. I think tourism definitely supports. I think one of the things that we tend to focus sometimes on what we don't do or we don't see. But I think right now, and I travel the Caribbean, travel the world, we have two of the hottest spots right now in Caribbean tourism in Red Hook and Cruise Bay. And both of those pieces are driven by private sector businesses.
That's true.
All those pieces, all those things. And the government is there. I see the commissioner of police here. You know, what the government should provide is safety, lighting, roads. But what has to happen, and this is where we need a change in mindset, particularly with the tourism product, and the governor just mentioned downtown. You create the ambience and you create the ambience, people are going to come. But if the expectation is the government has to do everything, then we move in a space that we don't want to be in. And I like to focus on what we do well. I mean, any night you go out Red Hook, you're like, man, it's carnival out here. No, it's out there because people are looking for things to do. They found a place that they can do it safely, and they spend. And of course, the businesses like it, so more businesses come. Same thing with Cruise Bay. And I've been having this conversation with our retailers locally since I was the CEO at Wyco. You go to Cruise Bay tonight at 7:30. The jewelry stores will be open in Cruise Bay. You go to St. Thomas, Havenside, Crown Bay, Main Street, and there's a shipping town today. Yeah. And all of them are closed. So we have to understand, in this building right here is a perfect example. People don't pay $700 a night to go shop at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're on the beach, they're on the pool, they're doing what they have to do. But at 5:30, when they're ready to go out, they're going to Red Hook, they're going to Cruise Bay. And then when they're out, not because they were going to shop, they're going to have a good time. And then all of a sudden they see the store and say, well, let's take a memory back with us. And the sale happens. But you have to be open. And I do respect the conversation because I think that you highlighted a couple spaces that we have to continue to invest in as a destination, not necessarily as a government, as a destination, which is culture and experience, and telling the story, as Ms. Lewis mentioned earlier. But I think a lot of that are opportunities for younger entrepreneurs to come up and say, well, you know, I actually now have an idea that I could take, whether it's a tour, whether it's a social media piece, that can happen. And as the governor mentioned, there are funding sources that could help. But what we have to recognize are those that hustle the most are going to be the ones that are going to benefit. And those that sit back and say, well, you didn't give it to me. Well, you're going to be waiting a long time because it's there to be had, but you got to want to get it.
The other thing is the barriers, you know, the biggest barrier to entry now in this market is insurance. We've been talking to the cruise lines. I just had a conversation with the FCCA about what they're doing on other islands in order to kind of create these conglomerates of excursions and experiences in order for them to be able to participate. Because if you run in a little tour business going through showing 100 stairs in St. Thomas, you can't afford $1 million insurance. So we work with the chamber here on health insurance, doing associative units where you get people together to provide tourism insurance, and that's the kind of things that we need to do in order to support that. So the other thing I want to talk about is energy, right? I mean, our restaurants.
Before you go to your next thing, what's your second question? So you will say.
Second thing.
Yes.
I'd never interrupt the governor.
Yeah, that's why they have me here.
The second issue has to do with sports. And I'm here as a representative of the sailing industry here in the Virgin Islands. And as beautiful as our island is, a big part of that is when you look out the ocean, and I hear everybody talking about the beautiful water. Look at the picture behind you. Sailing and diving are a big part of what I believe is an industry that can expand. We talk about the fact that our availability for accommodation is small. Well, guess what? Every sailboat is its own accommodation. And I would like to give a shout out to Commissioner Bushulte, because from the time he was at West India Company, he has recognized, and working through the Department of Tourism, has been a wonderful partner. But we'd like to see the rest of the community embrace the fact that these waters around here are very special and should be utilized a little bit more.
I love it when you throw me a slow ball so I can knock it out of the park. We've done incredible things with the blue economy. It's on our Vision 2040. Right now, we have a program where we're putting on 120 moorings into the waters. Much to some people's dismay, we've really pushed and supported Summer's End, the marina in St. John. We're close to, from what I understand, we're getting closer and closer to an Army permit. We have now, I think it's 3 boat shows that we have in the Virgin Islands. Our charter yacht business is booming. It's at, every time I talk, we just lost Oriel Blake. She moved to Saudi Arabia, which is a big loss to us. But every time we talk to them, so even Joe, when we have meetings, say, well, what's your occupancy rate? 90%, 99%. They are at capacity. The largest thing there is everybody got to pitch in, right? So a couple of things I'll say real quick. We're really working on pushing Latitude 69 out there in Red Hook. We're trying to get that repaired. As soon as we do these 120 moorings, we want to also do more moorings in St. Croix, because most of those moorings were in St. Thomas and St. John. We just invested in 2 new marine boats for DPNR and a fireboat, because you can't only count the chickens, you got to take and feed them too. And then we're steady doing things in Gallows Bay to move all of the freight away and over to the container port, so we can open that up now to small ships, as well as to luxury yachting over there in St. Croix. We supported the building of, we now have the largest spray booth for marine in St. Croix right now under Gold Coast Yacht in their new places, and we're trying to help them expand to even more. And we just finished our shipping study to do ship repairs in St. Croix at the Renaissance. So we're not ignoring the blue economy. We're thoroughly invested there. It's the biggest hurdle right now is the BVI and us coming to an agreement on moving back and forth between the islands. And we've been, I could say publicly, we've been playing really nice with them, but we kind of getting upset because it's taking too long now. We're going to start being very aggressive about ships coming over, boats coming over here, because there's so much limitation for our charter yacht industry to travel over there. And it don't make any sense, because we know the Virgin Islands is a BVI airport.
Now, what's a interesting thing, and I think part of it, and it was shown by your comments to the gentleman there, a lot of things that the government does, people are not cognizant of. They don't recognize, they don't realize, they don't know. Now, one of the things that I saw, and you were spoken about earlier on, was the development here in the Waiko Dock, well, Havenside, GERS, with a hotel. I know on St. Croix right now, there's lots of hotel activity, looking like Hibiscus Beach is going to come back online. St. Croix by the Sea, I heard there was an owner there, and some things are going to be moving there. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have here in the territory now, and you referenced earlier, Commissioner, about the short-term rentals and the market that is bigger here than actually the hotel rooms. What there do you feel the government could do, you guys could do as tourism to help to get some more of these hotels in the territory?
Yeah, I think I speak with hotel developers often, and I think it is the proverbial have to get a deal done. And I think with this Hampton Inn coming online as a branded property, coming online with 120 plus rooms, it will send a signal that we are truly welcoming of these types of developments. Now, we've had smaller boutique hotels happen in the past, but our reality for larger hotels, if you didn't have a permit from 30 years ago, you weren't finishing the project. And now we've seen a project come along where it was collaboration with the government, the senators approved, the governor assisted, I'm sure the EDA is involved in benefits, and all of a sudden, you had a project now that many of us, in my tenure, if you'd have asked me when I was at Waiko, if I think I'd have looked out my office window and see a hotel, I'd be like, not ever. But now, when you drive by Havenside and you drive in and you're like, what? This thing really happening? And then I saw the governor posted that he was on the 5th floor. So if you didn't believe it, go on his Facebook page and you can see that it is really happening. And I think that is going to start more interest because the conversations are there, right? We spoke a little bit about the brand and what we're doing. The lift is good. But the realities of it are there is tremendous competition. So whereas we have an EDC an EDA building giving benefits, you go straight down the island chain. They are giving benefits. Nobody giving anything to happen for free. The second thing that we have to realize is in many of these countries, they're giving you the land. They say, hey, take the land for 99 years. And if you're going to build a property. That's a reality where that's happening. So things are happening around, not just because we see situations. I mean, it's competitive. I mean, one of the things we speak about all the time is, and the same property out by Mahogany Run. That Hyatt Hotel is built in St. Kitts and been built for years.
Yeah.
They left St. Thomas when they couldn't get the thing moved, and they didn't say we out of the hotel business. They say St. Kitts were right. They said we'll take it, and you go down there right now, and the St. Kitts Hyatt is open. We're up and running, and that was the property that was supposed to be here. So we just have to recognize that opportunities are there, and we, I think we tend to focus too many times on what can be, and instead of focusing on, well, what will happen? And I think this property here will show us that, lo and behold, you can build and you can be a steward of our environment and at the same time allow for a better quality of life of our people.
Well, and I encourage the audience to get up if you have a question so people could know you have a question so they could come to you, because it takes 10 years at least for economic development progress, right? So this hotel would not be open now if it wasn't for the Hotel Development Act. And that act was passed a long time ago and amended by the legislature so that we put like $200 million into this hotel that you see here, allowed them to collect the extra taxes and retain it from the resident. Botany Bay, we had to pull teeth, whipping and wailing and gnashing of teeth to get our hotel started. It's a beautiful eco-resort that's being built now. The Hampton Inn wouldn't have been done without that. Hotel on the Key, we redid the lease. The government got a good lease out for the development of that property in St. Croix. You got Sugar Bay, that's coming on now. Work is being done out there. That's another 300 rooms. Caneel Bay, we on the national park, like White and Rice, the delegate and I, to make sure we get a luxury resort built there again. But here's the problem, folks. Who gonna walk there? The one thing we talk about the Gen Z and the millennials, my generation and the generation before, everybody in St. Thomas had 2 jobs. People don't want to walk one now. They want to wake up, turn on Teams at 9 o'clock and check out at 12 to go to the beach. That's a hard day walk. And we need bodies. The biggest threat to our tourism industry, especially with the amount of construction that's going to happen over the next 10 years, is people. And it ain't before, like when we could get people in here easier from the Eastern Caribbean. We don't have the immigration. So we have a lot of developments going on, but as governor, it is a real hard sell to people to build a hotel when it costs us $1 million per public housing unit, and we have 3% unemployment. And the hotels were in existence and the restaurants can't find people to walk.
Question?
It's on. Good afternoon.
Please stand.
Oh, I have to stand. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Governor and Commissioner Bachelder. Of course, you know that a couple of years ago, not that long ago, we did some heavy lifting in the legislature along with the governor's office to move the cannabis legislation.
Oh, yeah.
And I am trying to wrap around my head how serious are we about moving forward with cannabis tourism?
I'm so glad you asked that.
To Commissioner Joe's point, a lot of times we think about all the things we cannot do. And I think the time is ripe for us to be leading in the Caribbean on the cannabis tourism. And it's not only about people coming and, going to the little shops to purchase, but it's also about actually having a resort, a space where you can spend some time. And I think that if we lead that charge, so are we having any deep dive discussions about how we're truly looking at moving forward with cannabis tourism in the Virgin Islands?
So, yeah, Sam, thank you, Senator. I'm so glad you asked that because I got a friend of mine keep asking me when we're going to open our first bed and bake. But, yeah, think about that. I'm going to be the first to admit that, standing up our cannabis industry is way more difficult than I thought. And we're putting a lot of resources in, but by the end of the year, we're gonna have all of the software done to administer the system. We're hoping that by October, so we'll be sending out the RFPs for the first dispensaries. A lot of this thing around fairness is very difficult. I don't know if any of you ever visited a dispensary. So when you think about setting up a cannabis industry, you have flower, oils, tinctures, and then you have edibles. So when in any dispensary, you're on a given day, a small dispensary will have 20 different strains, and then oils and everything else. Now we got to set up all of that, have the labs for that, have those growers in those specific strains, and then do it again in St. John, and then do it again in St. Croix. So it's a lot, and then we have to have enforcement about it, seed to sale. So we put aside some money, and we're going to need some more money to really get it done right, because I really didn't think about, now we have to have a whole enforcement section with people who go out and inspect what's going on at the site. If your cannabis comes in and it's contaminated, I got to send somebody to your site and then destroy your whole crop. It's just a lot of little moving parts, but we're hoping by next year we'll actually be selling. And we're one of the only jurisdictions that actually have cannabis lounges, because a lot of places you can buy cannabis, but you can't smoke it in any public places, and you can't smoke it in any of the hotels. So this will be an actual place where you could go and you could take your edibles or smoke or do whatever it is you want to do. But to your point, Senator, I think it is a piece of that we need to emphasize.
You have another question?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity for, just to hear all this information, and to also just, know that our governor and our lieutenant governor and our entire tourism team values the voices of the people in the industry. So I thank you so much for this opportunity. Also, the question that I have would be, what new initiatives are in place to ensure the survival of local businesses, especially in hospitality and food and beverage? Especially in hospitality, we know with the rising, temperatures, it's hotter outside, people are running their ACs, a lot more. A lot of the local family businesses that have been in our community for 50 plus years are now seeing energy bills from, $5,000 to $17,000 a month, which is, really crushing a core part of that interaction that the customers, they want to meet with our local families and our local businesses.
We need to be a little more succinct, as we only have 10 minutes left.
Yes,
please.
Correct.
But I can answer your question based on what you said.
Thanks.
What's today? Thursday. I've been speaking with one of the potential heads of WAPA, and one of the questions that I have, or one of the initiatives that I want, is right now residential plays less than commercial, and I want to figure out a way to lower our commercial power to below our residential. And he didn't like that idea too much, but the residential is a broader piece to spread the power cost over than the commercial. And even if we don't do the commercial lower, we look at places like Main Street, for instance, where there is a lack of activity, and we say we're going to sell power in this district at half the cost. So what that will do is force restaurants and places that use high energy to go into those places and rent. So strategically, we have a lot of money coming on. We have like $167 million coming for solar reinvestment and renewables. A lot of that is geared towards residential, but I want to see us do some stuff on the commercial side. One of the ideas, again, that could be driven by the private sector is this idea of community solar. The United States Department of Energy is currently giving out grants for you to create a solar grid. So let's say you use 25, you own a restaurant and use 50K a month. You don't actually have to put it on your restaurant. You just buy 50K of investment out of this solar array that they're doing, and then you get the credit on your bill every month. So that way, all the renters who are in the commercial business, they don't have to put a solar piece on their house, they could just get the benefit of it because they've bought in to an investment that's selling power from a remote location. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at in order to lower the cost. During COVID, we also had subsidy programs that we were looking at, but the economy took off at such a speed after we started opening up that we didn't look at it. There's also a lot of new loans coming out. We did the innovation grant before for businesses where we gave businesses grant, but they're under the Housing Finance Authority. They have a lot of hurricane-related HUD grants that are coming out now for businesses to do strengthening. Strengthening includes air conditioning, solar, all of that, you could qualify under that. So under the Housing Finance Authority, you could go there and get some more information if you're a business.
We have one.
I just want to, let me just add one last thing. I think you raised a very valid point about survival. And I think one of the things I would encourage the business people in the room, businesses that are listening and following, if you have a tourism or hospitality related business, you should reach out to the Department of Tourism and get your business on our website. The website, we have a brand new website dropping in terms of updating, and there's so many things that people look for on the destination website, where to eat, where to go, where to travel, and you would be surprised how many businesses that are in the territory that have not even reached out to tourism to put their business on the site. Yeah. So I would encourage you to do that. That's an easy step just to get something, get your name up and recognized, and you'll be surprised how quickly you'll see a turn if your product is strong and you have good communications. And when I say product is strong, is we've seen experiences where businesses go up on the site, but they close 5 days out of the week.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're serious about the business and you do it, then you have to understand that the business operates around the guests, not around the convenience of the owners. And that's a challenge for many of our businesses because they only want to open when they want to open. But if you open, you got to open up when the people want to spend the money. So we have to be mindful of that, and the website is an easy way to get your business up and running. We have people that help every day get businesses up. If your website is not right, we can help you get it right. If your branding needs some assistance, we have people that could help. But the first step is the businesses have to want to help themselves, and then we can help.
All right, one final question as we're out of time. And the young lady was there. She is the last question. Please stand.
Am I the lucky person? Oh,
yes, you are. Please stand.
I'd like a lottery winning, please. Good afternoon. My name is Susie Sanford. I am a transplant from New York. I acquired the former Villa Blanca, now Boundless Bliss Hotel. We welcome all of you to come by and visit us. Can't pass up on the opportunity for a plug. I've heard a lot. I'm also very appreciative of being here. Heard a lot about creating in triplicate or in quadruple what a community might need. And a thought running the Boundless Bliss Hotel over the course of the 2 years is that often I get asked the question about horseback riding, and there's only horseback riding in St. Croix, but it costs $210 to go from St. Thomas to St. Croix if the ferry is not running, and there's only that one ferry and it's not running right now. My thought is that if, like anywhere, there's some kind of public commuter transport, and if it has to be marine transport, there should be some investment of the government in the same way that you have a public bus or safari in public commuter transport. And then secondly, you know, it's always peculiar to me, I'm a clinical psychotherapist, about when people say they don't have people to work. There are two motivators to work, and that is the incentive of the pay and the quality of life that pay gives you, so people will get people to work when they pay them better. And then it's also the inspiration or the motivation. So if we had summer youth programs, and I always think about, if I have the government in front of me, try to help the government see the people. So if
hold the mic to your mouth. You're moving it away from
the
top.
I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Sorry. I'm trying to help the government see the people. So if your challenge is employees and all you have are adolescents, incentivize adolescents with what incentivizes them: revenue, and stipends. You know, when we wanted more lifeguards, we changed the summer youth employment rate for lifeguards to $4,000, which was double what the summer youth employment rate was, and we got lifeguards.
Okay.
So that was my
Thanks
comment
for you.
question. No problem.
Okay.
That was a lot. So, I mean, we do have summer youth programs. We employ about 600 to 700 kids every summer. I think the employment problem is a different problem. You say you take it to, we have too many free stuff. This is America. You don't really have to work. It's a fallacy. People think so, but everything is free. I mean, it's amazing when you go to places and you tell people that our maximum rate of unemployment is $500 a week. You know, what they ask you is like, if you sit down and do nothing, yes, boy, to do nothing. Food stamp, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, light assistance.
Telephone.
Huh?
You get telephones.
Telephone assistance.
Free phones.
Free phone, free internet. I mean, it is, the incentive is growing less and less. And to your point, I agree, you can pay people more, but, wages are through the roof in terms of the growth over the last 5 years, especially the government. I mean, the difference between our federal payroll transfers in from 2016 to now is $50 million more. Or so, the one thing I give to people who aren't from here is a bucket of chicken is $55 in the Virgin Islands. 67, it gone up. $67. So, I mean, we got to find a way. It's weird that AI is coming now, so it's going to take up some of that. Information is on the internet, but people think because we're an island that they're not going to be able to find the information. The last thing I'm going to do is say accessibility. Everything in the Virgin Islands, difficult to do. The only thing easy in the Virgin Islands to do is build Carnival Village. Only thing. So, I mean, expect a little frustration when you go through some of these programs and you do some of these things. Because people tell me, man, I apply for the housing program, your VI slice, you're giving away $200,000. But you know how much paperwork you got to fill out for that? You know how long you got to work to make $200,000? So, apply yourself and have a positive attitude about what we're doing in the Virgin Islands. People talk about the negatives, but there's so many good things going on all the time. That dude is desperate for a question, but you gotta give him a chance.
You see, and I'm different because your time is up.
You know what?
But he's in charge.
I wanted this session to be, the question part to be the biggest part, because I want to hear from you, so ask the question.
And then if you're going to open it up, you also have one in the back.
Two last one.
Right.
Ask quick if you go. Say, don't preempt your question. I don't want to hear about the history of the Virgin Islands. Say, I want to know this.
And please be succinct with your question. We have to wait for the guy to come back with the mic.
Just ask if he's able to hear it. What's your question? Like what?
We haven't talked about the fact that if you're a business owner and the electricity doesn't stay on, you can't do business.
Right.
We haven't talked about the fact that if I'm visiting and I fall or I have a traumatic brain injury and I have to go to the hospital ain't working. We ain't talk about the fact that the place is dirty.
The pigs are done?
Let me finish speaking. No. We didn't talk about the fact that, you talk about service and value. We haven't talked about the things that are important.
But you wait till the end of our session to ask all of the questions. You should have asked them in the first.
Well,
okay, I'll ask one question then.
Yeah, ask your one question, please. And please be succinct.
So you ask your one, they can respond.
But which? I mean, I didn't want to get into a whole discussion about energy. I mean, we've had energy problems for a long time, and I always tell people, we tape everything I say, so you could go back and look at the press conference from Monday, and it'll tell you everything that we're doing about energy in the Virgin Islands. The hospital, I totally disagree with you. We discount our hospital all the time. We handle some of trauma, 2 and 3 people getting shot, people sick all the time for free. They do an excellent job for the resources that they have available. So don't say, oh, if you fall down your hospital. We went through the whole of COVID with a failing hospital system, everybody see, and only 100 and something people died, and we did really well keeping us all alive. So use one of those people who always have to say something negative. The people at the hospital work very hard. Let's get the next question.
And please, we're here at a tourism
That's the other thing.
conference. We're going to stick to that or things that have a relation to that. Otherwise, no question. It's a final question. Well, oh, jeez.
No. Governor, Commissioner, pleasant good afternoon. So there seems to be a lack of transportation for our visitors when they want to be out at night. I'm going to stick to visitors because this is a tourism thing. And most of you know where I'm going, right? So I think it's an appropriate place. So what is our intent, or how do we feel about ride sharing coming into the territory? Thank you.
I think that our whole transportation system needs reform. I don't. I've been pretty mum on the taxi thing because we've been going back, working with my colleagues, Echo Carlin, and so in the legislature, trying to figure out what to do about some of the problems we're having around taxi. But we definitely need a car system with rideshare. We had a proposal before from Senator Javon James to do rideshare. The Taxi Commission said they didn't want to have anything to do with it. I think we need our own rideshare that our people could participate in and benefit from. And then it needs to have caps on it, like they can't go to the airport, they can't come to the hotel, they can't solicit from the hotel. So you could get a ride from Havenside to here, but not from here to Havenside. Some things there, just some parameters around it so we preserve our taxi industry as well, because we have a lot of people in there that depend on that for their living. And we don't want to cannibalize our industry.
All right, our final question. Senator, please.
Yes, thank you. You know, Governor, I'm so proud that you mentioned about the issue with the marine, because, you know, after the storm, I think our marine industry has been building back, and our good neighbors, we had some issues, so I'm so proud that you say you're going to get a little bit tougher on them. And so I guess we know, I spoke to Bushelta and Evangelista about it, and I'm so proud to see that you're actually going to take action. So I just wanted to tell you publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And as we have gone through beyond the time that was set and beyond the time that has been set as well, I want to thank the governor and our Commissioner of Tourism for their participation.
No, go ahead, ask your question. There you go.
Hello, good afternoon. You had mentioned you want to increase people going out at night, and also when Sharon was speaking, she talked about making sure your infrastructure was in good shape. I would just like to make a suggestion that to get people to go out more at night, if you could improve the functionality and the quantity of streetlights and also put the striping, particularly the white line on the side of the road, it would make a huge difference with local people wanting to go out at night and also visitors who are not familiar with our island being able to travel on the roads at night safely and be able to see where they're going. And also, when you go through inspection lane, if we could consider having the headlights re-aimed to the other side of the road so they're not in your eyes when you're driving. I know for a fact a lot of local people won't drive at night because the roads are too difficult to see. So if we could do that to improve our infrastructure, I think we would increase the number of people going out in the evenings.
I thank you for that. And I agree. I mean, I had experience with fog on the north side at night. And if it wasn't for that yellow railing, I would have been over a cliff. And yes, I was driving myself. But I think I think something wrong with our marking and our roads, man, because as fast as we could pave and marked roads, the paint comes off. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Caribbean or whatever, but our markings don't stay down long. You know, and then, this is the last thing I want as I close out, right? Because it's my pet peeve, and I know my senators have to run for election, but I can say it. People are always talking about what a government need to do, but nobody's ever willing to pay a dime more in taxes, you know? And at some point, we're gonna have to pay for what we want. I mean, you know, we as elected officials and my commissioners, you think we don't want to raise pave? You don't think we don't want the lights on? We want it too, but we are like a middle class or maybe upper poverty class household in the Virgin Islands. So we can't fix everything on our house one time. We got to choose what we want to fix. So we made an effort towards paving the roads. We were doing good, but then we had to help people pay the light bill. Thank God tourism has been doing good, but we got to figure out, like, okay, how can we pay a little bit more? Because over the last 5 years, everything gone up except the government rates. We haven't raised the tax. We haven't raised the light bill. We haven't raised the insurance. We haven't raised anything. And how do we pay for the stuff if we're not bringing in more money from the taxpayers to pay it? Again.
A round of applause for Commissioner for Shelter, Governor Albert Bryan Jr.
So we know that today's summit certainly is a great opportunity for us to share ideas, and we know that there's a lot of passion when it comes to tourism and this particular industry. So we thank each and every one of you for being here today. We know that many of you may have some additional questions. I just want to remind you that there is a networking opportunity following the end of today's summit. We're going to do a quick transition of our stage before our next panel. But I just wanted to highlight sort of like a recap of the day in case some of you came a little bit later, or in case those of you who are viewing on the live stream may have missed the earlier panel presentations. We certainly had a great opportunity to hear from our commissioner, Mr. Joseph Bushelta, about the status of the U.S. Virgin Islands and us being number one and the things that have driven us to that spot. And as we continue to push forward and various things that we are doing collectively, again, one band, one sound, tourism is all of us. So we started with that. We had the State of the Caribbean, and we had a great panel discussion. We had our Deputy Commissioner, Rosie Farrington. She led that panel, and great ideas, great feedback from our industry experts in that particular panel. This is where I'm talking as we transition our stage. We also had the product and how to expand it. Our Assistant Commissioner, Alani Henneman, led that discussion, and we're going to have some soft music, DJ Country, behind me. That way, when I stop talking, you can hear the music. We also had a great keynote presentation, and Miss Lewis, is she in the room? I certainly really enjoyed that. There she is, yes, by the door. We loved your presentation. Everyone has been talking about it so much in terms of the knowledge and experience as it pertains to the tourism industry. And we had our beachside chat here on Trunk Bay on stage here at the West Inn on Frenchman's Reef. We pretended. Trunk Bay is my favorite beach, so we pretend. Is that okay, Administrator Joan? Okay, fantastic. And again, the #1 beach on Love City, St. John. I know, but it's on St. John. Correct. It's the #1 beach, period, located on St. John. So we're going to have some music, and we're going to be back with our panel presentation, and that's going to be leveraging partnerships and social media to expand a brand. So we'll be back in about 2 minutes with our panel presentation. So that means that you stay right put, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, I did say 2 minutes. I did say 2 minutes. We're going to kindly ask for everyone to take their seats. This was not the coffee and tea break. 2 minutes. Please take your seats. Clap once if you're listening. Clap twice if you're paying attention. Clap 3 times if you're in your seat. A lot of people are not in their seats. We'll give you 30 seconds to make your way to your seats so that we can continue in today's summit. We have another dynamic group of panelists that you're going to hear from shortly, but we need everyone to take their seats. Okay, so we are indeed ready to begin with our next panel presentation, but we can only do so when everyone takes their seat. So if you are exiting, please do so expeditiously, and if you are coming back inside, please sit immediately. If you are exiting, senators, don't make me call you out. Senators, exit. If you're exiting, if you're inside, have a seat. We are indeed ready to continue in our panel presentation. Our next topic is going to focus on leveraging partnerships and social media to expand a brand. And Hannah Bajwe, and I practice that, Hannah is going to serve as our moderator for this great panel. And I just have to do a shameless plug for Gabrielle, one of my former students from Graffiti Street. We are just all so proud of her. Yes, 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 one of our young people doing dynamic things. But they're going to introduce themselves. Hannah is going to take it away in just a bit. And once again, we thank you so much for joining us for today's summit.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited to chat social media and partnerships this afternoon. Hopefully lighten things up a little bit. I know we are all users of social media in this room, so whether we are marketing the destination or a property or a restaurant, we're also all probably scrolling in bed every night, let's be real. So I have the great honor of moderating this panel with Brittany, Jana, Kiana, and Gabrielle, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves before we dive into questions. Brittany?
I'll start. Is my microphone on? Okay. I'm Brittany McCallum. I'm the Vice President of Basketball Marketing at Clutch Sports Group. Clutch is a sports agency that represents the world's most influential athletes in the NBA, WNBA, MLB, and now with soccer, we just acquired a soccer league out of Germany. I've been with the agency for 3.5 years, based in Los Angeles. I oversee our basketball marketing department, so I support all of our basketball athletes across the NBA, the WNBA, and I work with our collegiate athletes as well that are in college. Before the agency, I was at the NBA, so I worked at the league office in New York for 3.5 years, where I sat in their global partnerships department, so managing the relationships between the different leagues, NBA, WNBA, G League, and all of their corporate sponsors. I come from a basketball family. My dad's a college basketball coach. My brother played professionally. It's literally in my blood. But specifically, I have worked in partnerships and with brand marketing for athletes throughout my entire career. And it's a pleasure to be here today, so I'm excited for the conversation.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jana Handy from Brooklyn, New York. Here representing Black Market Vintage. We are a vintage boutique shop in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy to be exact. We've been in business now for 10 years, just celebrating our 10-year anniversary in this November coming up. And thank you. And we do a whole host of things outside of having a brick and mortar. We do interior design, we do prop styling, we do prop rental, we do wardrobe rental. So we do a little bit of everything. We really specialize in centering Black historical items, and so that's what you would find at the center of our business.
Hi, everyone. Is this on? There we go. My name is Kiana Handy. I am the other half of Black Market Vintage, concept shop based in Brooklyn, New York, specializing in objects and ephemera of the Black diaspora. And Jana gave you the quick and dirty about the business, but it's an honor to be here, excited for the conversation, and looking forward to chatting with y'all.
My name is Gabrielle Carrard, and I am a multi-generational Virgin Islander. I grew up in a family that prioritized storytelling, particularly around history and culture. And as statistics often show, what parents are interested in, their children will oftentimes also be interested in. And so I began creating content on social media. I started on TikTok, where I was talking about Caribbean history and culture, but the facets of the history and culture that we don't often allow a spotlight to be shined on. And it grew pretty rapidly, and I decided that I really wanted to create content that would be beneficial for my local community, the Virgin Islands. And so I began creating content for TikTok and Facebook. Instagram and Facebook, which has been very well received by my local community. I am also the co-host of Hot Ones Caribbean Season 3, Virgin Islands Edition with Temple. And I also am the co-host and co-producer of the Caribbean Mystics podcast. This is a podcast that showcases true supernatural stories from the Caribbean region. And we have just hit 40,000 views. So.
Amazing. Lots of good expertise on this panel. And as we all know, on social media nowadays, it's grown beyond just connecting with your friends and family and going on Facebook. And while those cute photos of your baby cousin, are amazing, social media is a lot more entertaining these days as well. And people are watching social media content rather than just tuning in to cable TV. So to start things off, whoever wants to kick this question off, how are collaborations between businesses, local organizations, as well as creators, how can that enhance a destination's marketing efforts?
That's a good question. I'll take that. I think for us, being that we had a physical location in Brooklyn, what really social media enables us to do is to have really multinodal storytelling. So what are the stories that we're telling through not just the people that we're collaborating with, but the opportunities that we're offering our visitors? When it comes to whether we're amplifying other businesses that are around us, whether we are partnering with influencers on a one-to-one, maybe it's a brand ambassador or something like that. But really how it enhances it is that folks get pulled in and into your brand story. And I think that's the most impactful thing of social media, and that's really the juice that we've been able to tap into. We started our business, like I said, 10 years ago, and right now we're right under 300,000 followers on Instagram, and our online community has been so pivotal in our growth and the ways that we've been able to sustain ourselves, and that has come through, like you said, collaborations, influencers, and other brands.
I'll just jump in. Social media is a core part of our partnerships in terms of how we activate with brands across our talent. And so the best way we can do that is trying to find those authentic connections. One example I'll share is how we've been able to partner with USVI with our athletes. Just looking for moments that we can send our athletes to the island and experience the island and take their followers down here with them and really be able to your point, share their story. And really the best part of a successful partnership is that storytelling and that synergy and that connection. So a few months ago, we were able to send one of our WNBA clients, her name is Chelsea Gray, to the island. She had just won the WNBA championship with the Las Vegas Aces. She also was welcoming her first baby with her partner, so they actually chose the USVI as their destination for their baby moon. So not only was it a place for them to go and just relax after a long season and after winning a championship, is that where they decided to take their trip as they were going to start their family, and they brought all of their followers down with them as they were documenting on social media through their Instagram stories every day, posted on their feed as well. So not only did they get a great experience, but they've opened up a whole new world of viewers and potential folks that will come down as well, because they got to experience how amazing the island was for them.
Brittany, you mentioned authenticity, and that's so important on social media. And I think especially as, you know, small businesses or people who marketing is just one thing on their to-do list of many other things. Anyone on the panel, really, what are some top tips for staying authentic on social media and really making that a pillar of the content that you're putting out, and, you know, maybe having a valuable content, you know, is better than just a high volume of inauthentic content? Any thoughts there?
I think one of the benefits of, for instance, advertising a place like the Virgin Islands is that there is a huge surplus of Virgin Islanders who can assist with that. And why that's important is because we know that the bulk of our travelers are going to be millennials and Gen Zs that prioritize having experiences that links them closely to the culture, which is why we've seen such a rise in Airbnb. And so authenticity is incredibly important. And when a brand is not authentic, you tend to lose people and you develop a reputation for being inauthentic. Part of the authenticity thread too that I think is really important is because we live in a Caribbean region and everyone around us is hosting sun, sand, and sea. We have to dig deep and find ways that make the Virgin Islands the place to go. And then hopefully, as we are the gateway to the Caribbean, they continue to travel through the Caribbean so our region is uplifted. Part of the authenticity too is being audacious and courageous enough to tell our stories. I think when we talk about storytelling, it's really intangible, or we tend to go to the same 3 stories that we have come to know, right? That's synonymous with our Virgin Islands experience. But there are so many stories that are in the depths of the minds of our elders, stories in our Virgin Islands-centered textbooks and even biographies that allow us to get a range of nuanced understanding of the community that we grow up in and come to love. But also when we know that information for ourselves, it's information we can share with others. So the love of the Virgin Islands is something that carries a depth.
I appreciate this question about authenticity, and I think it's often talked about as something that everyone should kind of be striving for. But authenticity looks different for each business, for each brand, et cetera. And so while we don't live specifically in this territory of like tourism, we're a small business, our work is around curation and history and archives, really. Like our voice is just going to look different than hotel or someone in hospitality would. And so I think determining what your brand is, what your mission is, what your brand story is, and then speaking from that voice in what you're doing on social and what you're doing on your website, et cetera, all of that messaging should come from a succinct, consistent place and brand story. So I think it's really just about identifying what your story is and then filtering your messaging through there.
Yeah, and I think really I love that point. To add on to that, like the authenticity that clients, that visitors latch onto, that's the vibe. The locals are the vibe. The people who live here, that's why people come here. Royal Caribbean and Carnival, they're not setting the vibe. And so people want to come here to experience the islands. And so it's just like those small businesses, the mom and pops, what are those small ways that folks are sharing their piece, their authentic piece of the island, their authentic piece or their authentic lens of storytelling? How are you sharing that? Because that is why people come to these spaces. That's why people will return to these spaces.
And I'll just add that social media is such a crowded place right now. Everyone's on social media. You're getting lost in your content. You're seeing things from several days ago. It's really hard to stay on top of it. So finding the storytelling and the authenticity is critical right now. I've been hearing a lot of conversations around brands that have interest in micro-influencers. So that's celebrities, influencers that have just tens of thousands of followers. Not millions, because when you have millions, it's too hard to reach. They're not engaged. They might not even see it. So when you're connecting with people that have tens of thousands, you know that those followers are going to look at everything they do. They're engaged, they're commenting, they're asking them questions, or they're in their DMs, and they're actually going to respond back, right? Because they don't have this massive following, but they have their group of core people that are invested in what they're doing, and that's where we're seeing a lot of success, and it's really due to that authentic storytelling and being true to who you are and aligning with either an influencer or a brand that makes sense to you and that's very specific to you, and not just endorsing something and slapping your logo on it. It's a different world today, and that really won't get you very far.
I love that point about creators that reply in the DMs, because I think the same thing goes for brands. People forget that social media is a two-way street. So social media should never just be a promotion vehicle to put out your own content, but really needs to be engaging with others. We all know that there is so much going on with social media and so much to keep up with. Are there any new trends that you all are seeing, or trends within brands and creators working together that would be good for destinations to be a part of, trends that are going to stick around, that are maybe longer than just the moment this week? What are you seeing there?
I find that a lot of people are not interested in the highly manicured content. And I think that that's one of the barriers that we experience with small businesses, is they feel like they have to have all of this accoutrement of tools in order to put forward content that's going to capture people. And the truth of the matter is that with the dawning of the age of iPhones, as long as you have an iPhone, you can become a content creator, and you can steward a lot of the work of content creation within your business. And so the other side of that is people are craving relatability. It's long gone of the days of people worshiping celebrities, because it's so intangible for the common person that now that's why influencers have been able to come in, because these are everyday people, the people that used to be the teachers, the people that used to be, in the office doing paperwork, the corporate girlies are now creating content around their everyday life, the get readies with me's, the come with me's to enjoy my day, the come shower with me even, which is a little intimate. But it's an example of the level of intimacy that we see people craving, and I predict that we're going to continue to see a call for more relatability. And so a really great example of this is that the Department of Tourism created their TikTok account, and they posted a whole slew of beautiful videos, but there was one video in particular where it's literally just a Crucian man that owns a restaurant, and he was asked a very simple question. What is one thing that you would want someone who is not from the Virgin Islands to know about the Virgin Islands? And his response was so heart-centered and moving that the Department of Tourism got over 2 million views on that one video. And they were able to garner thousands of new followers just by one video of a Virgin Islander in a well-lit restaurant on St. Croix talking about his love for St. Croix.
Mm-hmm. I think one trend that I've been seeing, and this is kind of in line with what Brittany was saying around micro-influencers, there's a lot more lateral partnerships, so you'll see a lot more small businesses partnering and co-sponsoring things with each other. I think about where our business is in Bed-Stuy on Tompkins Avenue it's called Black Girl Magic Way, and it has the highest population of Black women-owned businesses in the state of New York. And so that kind of environment, we're now plugging each other's businesses, plugging the bakery, plugging the barbershop, plugging our vintage shop all together, and we now have a bigger megaphone together. And so that really has been a trend I'm starting to see, where it's almost like these conglomerates of folks who kind of operate together. We may have all different businesses, but we all understand that we can tap into each other's audiences if we just amplify each other.
One trend I'm seeing in terms of influencers and celebrities with destinations are brands are hosting events in tropical destinations, and you'll see a handful of influencers, content creators that go down and they document their entire trip. If it's a wellness brand, it'll be wellness themed. Maybe there's meditation, healthy meals, workouts, just depending on the brand is really the way that they activate. So it's something that I would love to do with my agency and my athletes, is try to find a way to get all of our NBA players here during the off season and enjoy the island and be able to showcase that brands are having success, and one by one we're getting our athletes down to the island. But if we could host a Clutch event or something, even bringing down executives for networking and really being able to tell that story, I'd love to dive into that, because it looks like from a content creator perspective, there's been a lot of success with these different brands getting people to the island and then drawing attention and interest in people wanting to go and do it themselves.
Absolutely. So on the flip side of trends, I think there's often underutilized aspects of social media that brands maybe forget about, or there's so many features on an app and it's just you can't do them all and you need to pick and choose. But is there anything underutilized on social media that you think maybe the tourism space could learn from another industry a little bit more, or don't forget about this quick little win?
I think we sometimes forget to use hashtags. Hashtags is a great way to connect communities, to connect interests. I know locally we were talking earlier about the need for our local business owners and entrepreneurs to utilize social media more, but that there were boundaries and there were barriers in place. And some of those barriers is that a lot of people don't know how. So I think people having opportunities for more media literacy. And while there are a lot of master classes online that you could pay for and attend to help you gain that level of media literacy, anything that is not culturally competent here fails. And so what that tells us is that when we go to our local professionals, our brand strategists like Colette Brown here, whose business is focused on supporting small businesses to leverage social media to support building out their business and reaching their target audience, we show Virgin Islanders that they can learn from each other, but we are also utilizing a culturally competent framework to assist them in doing so.
I think one other area, and this is just as a traveler, YouTube is a little underutilized. I think there's been shifts where it's like YouTube and then the energy went to Instagram and Facebook, and there's kind of waves that go back and forth between each platform. But I think YouTube has been such a great tool in showing some of the backstory of what you have going on. So it's not just come to my restaurant, see the great oxtail that I make, and that be that. It is, here's how I actually go get it. Here are my vendors. Here's what it looks like for me to get the restaurant ready in the morning. And I think so many people want that behind the scenes view that it really becomes part of the journey. So I'm like, well, now I know how, Ma Belle makes her oxtail. So now I want to go to that restaurant when I go down there. And so there's that kind of thing where you draw people into the process that I think YouTube and sometimes Instagram with reels and stories gets a little hairy, but I think YouTube has the long form where you can actually get deep dives into what the business or what your brand is about.
It's so funny that you mentioned YouTube and the long form, because I was going to say I like stories on Instagram, and we actually utilize them quite a bit. I think that the bite-sized, digestible bits of information and visual content is really helpful for me, and I'm thinking Gen Zers, other folks that are in our generation, sometimes to a fault. It's just like the attention span. But I think it's really helpful to get that behind the scenes that you were mentioning in this bite size if you're not a 45-minute vlog kind of person like we can be. I think the Instagram stories are a great place to do that. I think there's an emphasis from brands on the grid and curating a grid that is aligned with your mission, aligned with the kind of experience you want to promote for folks. But behind that, aside from that, I think the stories just have that like 24-hour short bit, show the behind the scenes for folks who are interested in something that is a little bit less curated and also less permanent.
I love that you guys both took it to opposite ends of the long-form content and short-form content. There's so many different things we can be doing on social media, and as we mentioned before, it's a big investment of time. How are you seeing creators and brands report back on kind of the success of these partnerships? If it's not always going back to hey, I bought this shirt online. How are you seeing other brands do that, and how would you suggest some businesses in the Virgin Islands, can measure their efforts to an extent of awareness or actually traffic coming into their restaurant? It's a little tricky, I know.
I think for me, the simple answer is asking them. So how did you find out about this business? How did you come to find us? And I think sometimes that is a really helpful question that also could just get a conversation going, but also shows you where you should be investing some of your time and energy and monies. I think that would probably be my response.
And on my end, I have an in-house team of data and analytics where we can go and see all of the data for each one of our clients. We can see the age demographic, what region their followers live in, what products they're using, what brands they're more likely to engage with. We can get pretty much any detail we need on our clients, and then when looking for partnerships, we take that information and we share it. And what age group are you looking to touch? What demographic are you looking to touch? Just really understanding what their priorities and helping to align them with talent that will reach the audience that they're targeting. So being able to dig, when you're looking for partnerships, dig into the actual data to align, which talent would make the most sense, that's always very helpful.
And then I'm thinking from our experience, while we're small business owners, we do occupy that content creator influencer space as well with certain brands and partnerships. And on the other end, so after the collaboration or whatever campaign it is, we are asked a series of deliverables as well. So thinking about that data, we are able to turn over what the views are, what the likes are on our platform. And so if you're thinking ahead about collaborating with some influencers, that's something you can build into your contracts, build into the negotiables or the non-negotiables, so that that data is turned over to you so you can keep track of it on your end.
A question for you, Gabrielle. What are some steps that locals might be able to take? Maybe it's hospitality partners who aren't necessarily marketing specialists, but how can they best get involved to contribute to the USVI's overall social presence, even if they don't have their own, large following on a platform?
I think that first and foremost, it goes back to the literacy and doing the legwork. I used to be a teacher, and when you ask children nowadays what they want to be when they grow up, over 50% of the classes are saying that they want to be an influencer or they want to have some sort of proximity to social media. And so we have a lot of young people that are coming forward and they're interested, and in a lot of ways they're knowledgeable, because when you look at the statistics, Gen Z spends 10.7 hours a day on social media. And so if you have children, teenagers even, ask them. You'd be surprised to know how much information one can glean just by perusing these apps regularly. It's how I was able to start. I am self-taught, as well as creating a business framework that includes social media marketing. Long gone are the days, as we mentioned earlier, where word of mouth allows you to not only keep your business open, but allow it to grow. Now, advertisements are more important than ever. And so creating a business framework where your pricing includes having social media specialists or a specialist on hand to support you in generating content, planning content, posting content, and then managing that content to look through the metrics and make sure that your perspective and the arena in which you are creating this content is actually working. Something else that's a little bit off the beating path of social media, but I feel like it's really important, is that we as Virgin Islanders don't always perceive our Virgin Islandness to be something that is profitable. So right now we have dying trades like wood carving. Mahogany wood beds are going for thousands of dollars, and that was a trade that Virgin Islanders were doing at one point in time that we've lost. Another trade is making seine nets, making hats, making bags and such. And so I say this to say that I think we could be a lot more creative in our entrepreneurial endeavors. And sometimes that creativeness doesn't have to look like reinventing the wheel. It could look like us going back in time and seeing what can we revive. Because as I said earlier, Gen Z and millennials are wanting to spend money on experiences, and they are wanting to get a close encounter with our culture. And part of that is they want to purchase items that are going to be representative and unique to the Virgin Islands, not something that they could get at any island, but something that makes us uniquely Virgin Islands.
all of you individually, could you share a little bit more about how social media has helped your brand or your athletes or your own page help build that community, and how it is elevating, the opportunity for partnerships and beyond, and just grown to how you have all gotten to the place you are with your role in social media and your own career?
I'd say when I look across really the last decade of us being in business, it took us some time to figure out what our voice was, what the space online was that we could occupy, which platform, like all of those are, I think there isn't a formula for every business, like we said earlier, to just kind of take and replicate and then ensure success. So it took us some time to figure out, okay, is YouTube for us? Is MySpace was not around then. Facebook our space? Is Instagram our space? Now TikTok, we're actually exploring, and we're not on the platform yet. But it just took us a few years, and then just talking about word of mouth. We are a local business in New York, and being from Brooklyn, born and raised, is very much so part of our brand story, particularly in a city where gentrification has been rapid, like our communities are changing incredibly. And so all of that is just centered to how we speak, what the business is about in terms of reclaiming objects and reclaiming Black history in that space. And so it was just really important that we found ways, creative ways, online and then through our immediate community to amplify our message. And Instagram was a really great place to do that because it was a space where we could engage in storytelling. Our work is tactile. We work with vintage and antique objects, and so there's a part of social media that allows folks to kind of have this almost not quite sensory, but almost sensory experience. Have y'all been in an antique store or a vintage shop before? A space where there are old items. There's a smell, there's a texture and a patina. And so we were thinking, how do we kind of translate this very tactile work and reach people so that they can be experiencing the items and experiencing the stories? And so that was really part of I think, our unique challenge and what our business was about. But Instagram, the stories, the opportunity for photos, the opportunity for videos and for audio, and then bring in archival imagery and archival references was just this really great tool that had multiple modalities, and we've just been able to be really flexible on that platform. We haven't stuck with one method over the years. We have really allowed ourselves to play and to try new things out and to be really curious as business owners and adapt as the time has changed, because 10 years is a long time to remain in business. And so I think part of that has just been seeing what has worked. And you don't have to stick with the same thing as a business. You have the opportunity and the control really to make the change if you'd like. So.
Definitely, and I 100% echo that, and I love the point that Gabrielle made about reaching backwards. I mean, that's so much of our work, Sankofa, going back into our history. People want depth. Right now, people want something that means something. They want a product that has history, a product that they can invest in its backstory, but also in the other elements that surround it. We can, on Instagram, we can just throw a vintage item up there and say, hey, this item's for sale, here's the link in bio. Or we can talk about, here's the history of this item, and here's where it's from. And so we're learning, even with our younger generations, they want depth. They want to be invested in something. And that's really how we've been able to use social media.
There is a quote that's circulated on social media for a while now, but it goes, trauma dies when stories are told in safe spaces. And my social media has offered me an opportunity to explore my own belonging to my community and to figure out who I am and what it means to actually be here. And one of the greatest gifts this path has offered me is the understanding of the privilege of being a Virgin Islander, and not just being a Virgin Islander, but having the access to be able to trace my generation, several generations back, to know their names, to know where they're buried, to know what buildings they were named after, or see their names in textbooks and history books. And I think that part of what my social media content brings to the table is that we open the door for conversations. Sometimes they're complex, sometimes they're painful, sometimes they are healing. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to create these conversations, because even in that, there are visitors that follow me. I've never met them before. They only came once, but they found me through a hashtag, and now they follow Virgin Islands content because they're just interested in the storytelling of it all.
And for athletes, social media is instrumental in how we help our clients build their brand identities. I'll just give an example with one of our clients. Her name is Juju Watkins. She's in college. She's a sophomore at USC and will be the face of college women's basketball for many years to come. When she first came to us, she was a junior in high school and had 64,000 followers, I believe, on Instagram. Now she's at just under 1 million, and that's through all of the work that we've done behind the scenes. Obviously she's an incredible athlete, and her performance on the court certainly helps boost those followers. But it's the work that we do in terms of really understanding who she is, what she's about, what's interesting to her, and then helping her share that with her followers and giving that out to the world. There's no purpose of just having a talent if you're not able to share it with others, right? Only your skill on the court can only take you so far. So it's our job to really dive deeper and to find those unique things about her and bring in the right brands that can help amplify and push the story even further. So yes, her following has shot up, and we have goals to help it continue, but everything we do is extremely authentic to her and very specific to her. She has a very curated plan. We have a content team that we can send out to her at any time to capture content, so she doesn't even have to think about it. We can be there behind the scenes, and if she's doing something cool, if she's throwing out the first pitch at a baseball game, we'll have cameras there that can capture it, package it up for her, and then help her post. Because while you're building your identity, you have to be consistent. And for a lot of people, it does feel like a full-time job. So I loved your point of, making sure it's a job description that's on the books and something that you're willing to invest in, because it's more than just a thought. You have to be able to be there every day, day in and day out, invested in the story that you want to tell, putting the work in. It's a two-way street. If you want your followers to come and you want people to be engaged and pay attention, then you have to be giving them something that they're going to want to come back for. So yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible by giving them the team and giving them a content plan as well. We have a calendar that just gives suggestions. On Monday we recommend this, on Tuesdays we recommend this, on Wednesday we recommend this, or hey, we're talking to a brand that is a beverage that you love. We kindly ask that you post on your Instagram that you're drinking the beverage, right? Because why would the brand want to work with you? Because you like it? No one knows that, right? So if you have 1 million followers, we have to find organic ways that you can show the world that you actually use the product, you like it, it fuels you through your workouts or whatever you use to take you to the next level. And then that's how the brand, will want to come and further the conversation and hopefully have a strong partnership just based off those authentic connections.
I love hearing about the importance of social media across all these industries, and I think it comes down to investing the time. It's not just the job of an intern, although we all love that help. There's a lot that goes into social media. So as we close out this panel, I'd love to open the floor one last time to each of our panelists. Is there any final piece of advice you would like to leave with our audience about how to best utilize social media, get started on social media, where to follow, where to learn more? Because I think we could have had an entire day on social media.
My biggest advice would be to consider hiring local. When you hire local, you get to make sure that you fulfill some of the most basic and important parts of marketing, which is authenticity and accuracy. When you hire local, you also get to put forth a depth of messaging that you otherwise may not be able to get when you hire from other areas. And I think the business that we're all in should be in capturing hearts, because when you capture hearts, you create a lifelong customer. And a really great example of this that I wanted to leave you guys with is if you hire an influencer from anywhere else in the world, they're gonna tell you that the best thing about the Virgin Islands is that you could travel here without a passport. But when you ask a Virgin Islander what the best part of the Virgin Islands is, they're going to tell you something like, the Virgin Islands has produced some of the most brilliant and talented minds to come out of the region, including people like Aaliyah Boston, who just got the 2023 WNBA Rookie of the Year awards, Grammy Award winner Tyron Thomas, Avelino Samuel, whose carved mahogany wood sculptures currently sit in the Smithsonian American Art Museum today. And so that underscores that the best part of the Virgin Islands is undoubtedly Virgin Islanders.
My best piece of advice is to be on. Don't be afraid. Don't look for excuses. You have no other way to advance your businesses and advance your brand and advance your messaging but to be on the platform. You don't have to have all the answers, but I encourage everybody to get on. I encourage that you lead with authenticity. I think that was the theme of the conversation that we've had today and something that we take into everything that we do. The best way that you can connect with audiences is through that genuine connection and finding those synergies. So can't hide from it. Definitely, do what you can to find the right people to help you pull it together, but having a presence on social media is critical. It will advance your business, it will advance your brand, and just finding those authentic connections and the right people to help tell your stories in the most authentic way is where you will find the most success.
I think for me, I think it is really important to sit with and identify what your mission is and to move with intention. And so whether it's coming up with a campaign, if it's choosing an influencer or a celebrity that you want to work with, to ensure that all of your efforts are undergirded by that intention, by that mission, making sure it's rooted and grounded in something as opposed to putting money behind things without that intentional intention.
I love that. And I would definitely say, going back to your previous question about trends, one trend that I have noticed is that there are older generations coming onto social media. And I think that's so important because gone are the days of just saying, I don't know how to do this newfangled technology, so I'm not even going to engage. There are so many ways to inform yourself, whether it be through YouTube, whether it be through, one piece of advice is if there's a page that you like, write down what about that page that you like? What kind of content are they posting? What kind of pictures? What is it about your favorite pages that you go to visit and try to emulate that? And then something really simple that my wife reminds me of all the time is take straight pictures and well-lit pictures. And so simple, but I mean, it makes such a difference when folks are trying to find you online. And lastly, for my younger folks, if there's a business that you love or a brand that you love, adopt a brand, adopt a mom and pop shop. If you are on social media all the time and there's a really good roti place down the block, do some stuff with them. Yes. Put them on, tag them. We have to be a community around some of these things where it's like, because we're all here talking about, she has probably a multi-person department that does social media. We have 2 people. She has 1 person. We have to do this all together because it's a lot of work, but when one business thrives, we all thrive. And so I think that really is my final piece of advice.
Thank you to our panelists, and I just wanted the shameless plug at the end, as Governor said earlier, to please visit USVI on all the social channels if you're not already. Thank you, everyone. And on TikTok.